Thank you. He just barely touched it, though, imperceptibly.
Talk about his coffee, though.
I got my hot chocolate.
San Diego finally won again.
Okay. All right, we're waiting on the ladies.
Of course.
No, we're waiting on you.
Did Casey ever score?
What, do you feel pressure?
You're doing Scott. Scott.
Okay. But you're just over there having a conversation, too. Is that all you're doing? Okay. All right. Taz, you ready? Taz, you ready? Okay. All right.
Sorry, we were waiting for everybody else to get here.
Yeah. Whatever will be, will be. They can watch it on YouTube. Right.
It's 6:02 according to
6:02. All right. I figured what we do this week is, and I don't, since last week we kind of deconstructed proof texting. I thought, well, maybe we should talk about, people always want to know what they're going to replace stuff with. I've been having a conversation with a couple guys who are theologians. And I was explaining to them that they wanted to know what I was going to do if I divorced myself from all these lovely theologies. I said, well, what did Abraham do? What did Moses do? And what did Jesus do? And what did Paul do? And what did Mark do? What did Luke do? You know, and started, what did all the prophets of the Old Testament do before? All the theologies of the Dark Ages. What did all of them do? How did they walk with God? How did they understand the Scriptures? As far as I can see, most theologies has just caused a lot of division and a lot of inconsistencies where if you can't rectify it, you can't rectify A with B with C. So, not that theology is bad, but I think it's run its course. And I believe it has run its course in a postmodern world. But what the beauty of it is we actually have the Scriptures. We have the Holy Scriptures, and we have plainly just what they say. And well, I don't know why we need more than that. I mean, it pretty much just says what it says. I don't know why it's, you know, it's like I said, well, how are you going to understand? I said, well, I want to know God, not about God. I've spent the early part of my life gathering information about God, and I don't know that it necessarily put me in any better place to actually know Him. So that I think that the church finds itself in a similar situation to where the Jews were before the coming of the Messiah the first time. In that they knew so much about God and about their systems and about how to do this and how to do that, and they had parsed the Word of God so finely that when Christ came, and he began to say, well, here's what it really means. They were like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't mean that. No. You are just way off base. It means this. So anyway, tonight, here we go. After proof texting, what are we going to do? And I even today, when I was thinking, okay, how do I treat people? How do I approach the Scriptures? How do I approach my life in God if I don't have all these verses to prove things? Well, that's pretty much the way I approach living my life with my wife or with anybody that I love. Really, my life is the proof of it. And I think we need to get back to that as believers. Your life has to be the proof of it. The proof of the pudding, shall we say. So, after proof texting, this is what we've done. We've taken something whole and we've made it into a puzzle. We've taken a relationship with God and with each other, and we've made it into a puzzle. And what we have done is we have empowered the puzzle makers. So that in order to go, you have to go to school to learn. There's no way could the early apostles of the church qualify today to lead most churches. It wouldn't qualify. Because depending upon what school of puzzyology you went to, like that, puzzyology, whatever school of puzzyology you went to, and then you go to that particular denomination's puzzyology, and that's what we have. We have where it has been broken down, and I believe there's a great hunger for the whole. I believe within the lives of people that I come in contact with every day, and here we're going to get an interruption, but that's okay, and I'm sure it's important for them, so we'll pause for a moment. And who could it be? Yes.
Yes.
Entrez-vous. And his wife isn't with him, and he's still late. So there you go. So what do we do if we're going to move past that? You will have the heart of the matter. What do you do if you move past the puzzles? Well, you'll have the heart of it. You need to become concerned with the heart of the matter. Anymore, when I'm listening to people talk, I'm wondering, what's the heart of that matter? Rather than getting all caught up in the debate. And I was sharing with one man, I don't know when it was, about a year ago or so, I just decided that I didn't want my faith to be a debate anymore. I didn't want it to be an argument. Not that I'm not a good arguer, all right? Better than most, I think. But I just was tired of it. It seems so unfruitful in relationships. It just seems not to be the way to approach it. So, question. What does the Christian life look like if it's not based on a proof text mentality? What does your life look like if you don't have a whole bunch of verses to back up your arguments? What does your Christian life look like in all the different areas if you don't approach it this way? It's scary at first if this is the way you're used to approaching it. But I'll tell you what you will find is that it's unnatural. And that's why most people are uncomfortable with sharing their faith. I mean, we never ask the question, why is it most people are so uncomfortable sharing their faith? Because it's so unnatural the way we've taught what it is to be a believer. Right? What it is to be a follower of Christ. What it is to be a son and daughter of God. So, first thing that you will be able to get away with is you will no longer have a circle the wagons mentality. Okay? Most Christians who are of a proof texting mindset, the minute they get challenged, what do? We circle the wagons. All right? First, you'll stop circling the wagons. You'll stop being so defensive when you are out and about with people that don't believe the way you believe. You will begin to look not for the points of disagreement, but you will begin to look. And if you begin to look, you will, as they begin to talk and you begin to think about the scriptures and just allow the Spirit of God to speak to you, you will be able to find something that resonates with that individual. That is the place to start a conversation. I guarantee it. If you stop having a proof texting mentality, you won't be looking for someone to debate. And so if you show up somewhere to a family event or in a community thing, if you're not looking for people to debate with, then you must be looking for people to have a conversation with. Now, the beauty about the real pull to debating and to the whole proof texting mentality really is based in your pride. Because you want to be seen as a person, a thinker. A thinker. And so if you've mastered this proof texting way, but actually you should probably be, and Scripture teaches this, you should probably be a better listener than a talker anyway. It's always better in a conversation to listen and then to wait on the Spirit of God and just search that place out and be empathetic. And it is amazing, since I have dropped the proof texting way of thinking, I have found it much easier to talk to people about the Lord. Now, I've never found it really hard, but I was the type of guy in sales, any company I ever worked for, they would always give you a book, so that when you went to the customer, and we had one book that you opened it up and then it sat up, and then you'd flip over the cards. Anybody did that? So you'd start, and when you flipped over the card, on this side was your spiel. Okay, what you were supposed to say. And then and even the question you would ask, and you would ask the question in a very typical Socratic method. You would ask the question, they would respond, and then you would flip to the next chart, and flip to the next chart until you got to the end where you asked for the check. And tell me that isn't the exact method that we've been taught in the church. See, it's the exact same way that we've been taught to approach people, right? You ask them a question, right? Yeah, the typical question is, if you were to die today, do you know for sure that we've all been taught that's a Socratic play on words. Second, when you stop proof texting, you will see yourself and others as they truly are. And I put down, this all depends on where you start. What I mean by seeing yourself as you truly are, knowledge puffeth up. It's clear teaching of scriptures. The clear narrative in the story of Christ as he ran into the people that he had the most problem with were the people that had it down pat. Those were the people that listened the least and, in truth, spiritually knew the least. But they were also the ones with the most power, because people had ceded the power over to them, because they had set it up in its complexity so that they were needed. And Christ would come and just say, well, you don't have to bother with all that. What? It's not important. Right? And it all depends on your start. I was talking about that this morning. If I start with someone believing that they are made in the image of God and that they are my equal, it's much different than if I think they're lost and abandoned and totally depraved and going to hell. Now, both of those ideas and concepts can be found in the scriptures. It's all dependent on where you want to choose to start. Now, I say, when you choose to start with the conversation that you are in and they are out, you are, in fact, taking a prideful position. You are taking a position that is not based in humility. You are taking the position that the early Jew took, that they were chosen and everybody else was dogs. Now, sometimes we can't see how we're very similar in a lot of ways, because when you use the same tools that somebody else uses, eventually you come to the same place where you begin to perceive yourself. Now, you don't say that. You still say, I'm saved by grace, and you say all those things. We say all those phrases. But when you approach, so it's so matters of where you start, right? And you have the freedom to start where? Anywhere you want. Because you know the story. See, once I free you from having to memorize the details, I empower you by telling you all you have to know is the story. The story. Once you know, and you know the story, you've heard the story. You should know the story. You know everything you need to know. Because then, not only that, but we'll get to this, it's also important that you are actually then living the story rather than thinking the details of the story. Once you're actually living the story, once you actually abandon this method, you'll find such freedom, and you will find God more and more in the narrative of your own life. Because it's also important where you start with yourself as well. Right? Love your neighbor as you what? Love yourself. It's important where you start. You start as a dirty dog? Well, how are you going to pass some joy on to somebody else? Please. You start totally depraved? Well, where you got to go? Well, you know, we're